Hello, my name is Carl Larsen. I have been asked to give you some guidelines in regard to the implementation plan for the AIDS Impact project. So this PowerPoint presentation will hopefully help you in developing your implementation plan for your forthcoming project. A common pitfall in developing the IP is that it is only done by a small handful of people. Though you will need a core team, probably a core team of people who have already been involved in developing the proposal that you have submitted. It's important that developing the IP goes beyond the core team, because there are some disadvantages in keeping it within a very small team. Some of them are that only if you do that, only a few people understand and own the project. Partners will often feel alienated and they will therefore lack commitment. It can create a lot of envy and resistance because people simply don't understand what is going on and think that this few people are keeping everything to themselves. Also, the university management and central administration might not really render the service required because they simply don't understand what it takes to assist and support implementation of a big project like an ACE project. So please use this opportunity that you have to create an implementation plan to create a shared understanding and ownership of the whole project, both within the whole host university and among your key partners nationally, regionally, and internationally. The core team should prepare, do the first steps by sitting down, getting understanding the whole project, the initial ideas of the project, what is it we want to achieve. Don't start to fill in or look at the template at this stage. It's limiting your thinking and your creativity. Just have a broad discussion of what is it you want to achieve with this project. Revisit what you have been writing in the proposal. See this as a process and invite stakeholders for a brainstorming where you discuss the suggested outputs, the suggested activities, who is going to be involved, what resources are needed, so the inputs to deliver these activities, that deliver these outputs. And then once you have had this brainstorming with stakeholders, remember to find a way to include your regional and international stakeholders for linking up with you virtually. Then once you have all that input, then the core team sit down. I would recommend, it's not a requirement, but I would recommend that it's done at a retreat, so they have coherent time to sit and start filling in the implementation plan format based on the discussion they have had with the stakeholders. After that, again, not mandatory but recommended, give your stakeholders a short window where they can look at your first draft, come with recommendations for improvement, validations that you got the discussion right at the brainstorming. So again, you're building ownership, you are enhancing the understanding of the project by going through this process. And then once that is done, you clean up the final draft of the implementation plan and you submit it to AAU. Another common pitfall in developing the implementation plan is that we see many universities or teams focusing their institutional capacity building on improving the physical infrastructure. That means buildings, labs, lecture halls, things like that, and on training the core staff in getting the capabilities to run the labs and to use smart classrooms, things like that. But remember that there is a lot more to institutional capacity building than just having excellent equipped lecture halls and laboratories. So scholars see this as a pyramid, where the top is the tools. That means that is the laboratories and lecture halls, but the requirement for them to be operational is the skills of the people operating them. So that's the training and the capacity building of staff. But for them to be efficient, it is required that the whole staffing is that, do you have adequate number of staff? Do they have the right kind of training and education? Is the infrastructure in place? Is there power supply, water supply, support staff, consumables, all of that? And for all of that to run, do you have the structure, the systems, the incentives, and the rules and regulations in place to run the university as an efficient entity? Is leadership, management, central administration, procurement, financial management, is all of that up and running, efficient? If not, you need to look at it, because otherwise you cannot perform, because everything is linked together. If the foundation, if the university's core functions are not efficient, staff and infrastructure will not be used efficient, skills will not be utilized, and tools will not be utilized. So please, when you are looking at institutional capacity building in your implementation project, reflected in your implementation plan, do not only focus on tools and skills and sort of forget the whole foundations for being efficient and operational with your tools and skills. You have to look at the whole university. Another common pitfall is that people are underestimating how much time and effort they have to spend in the first project year on getting administration and management up and running. The last pitfall I will discuss here is the tendency to be over optimistic in how much you can achieve the first year. So for new and emerging ACEs, I would recommend that they only use 10 to 15% of their total budget for year one, and that you can prepare procurement and civil works, but don't expect that you can actually initiate it in year one, because it does take time. For existing ACEs, I would say 15 to 20% of total budget for year one, and here you can probably initiate procurement, but the expectation would be that the majority of the civil works had been done during ACE 1, so you will not need major investments in that in ACE Impact. So don't rush. Remember that progress is not linear. This is not a blueprint that you're making with the implementation plan. It is a guideline for you to be able to implement, and you will get new ideas, you will get new inputs, you will want to revisit things and alter things during implementation, and that is only normal in the strive for excellence. So just keep revisiting and updating as you learn while you are moving along in the project. Don't get frustrated that this is happening, that is only normal. And identify obstacles early on in the project. The earlier you can identify them, the faster you can develop mitigation strategies. And ACE is a big project to move forward, so you don't want it to be too much uphill. Maybe because you have too small a team initially. What is seen some places is that the ACEs turns out to be very much a one-person show, that the center leader is trying to do everything by themselves, and that limits how much you can achieve. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of bureaucracy in running and managing the project. So the requirements from the World Bank and AAU has a significant amount of bureaucracy, and so do the internal process within the university, especially within procurement and financial management. So please try to look at that early on in the project. If there's lack of transparency, there's a lot of mistrust and hostility building against the project that have been seen several places. And also if there is there's unrealistic expectations for people coming in, partners or people from other faculties coming in supporting the ACE, they might have unrealistic expectations because things are not made clear up front. So the more you can lower those obstacles, the faster you can move. And remember, use your partners internally, externally, to move the process forward. It's a team effort, it's a consortium, it's not a 1, 2, 3 persons endeavor to move an ACE forward. And lastly, the goal is impact, not project completion. So though there might be a lot of forms that you have to fill, including the implementation plan itself, this is only a means to the goal and not the goal in itself. Sometimes we tend to forget that when we are doing project implementation. There are many goals here. The goals are a new breed of postgraduate graduates, master and PhDs coming out to serve Africa, new knowledge for Africa, stronger African universities, a stronger industry in Africa, a stronger food sector in Africa, a stronger health sector in Africa, and so on. Lastly, I will just briefly look ahead. This IP will carry you to the end of 2020. By November, December 2020, you will need to start developing an annual work plan for 2021. At this stage, it will be important to take stock of what have you achieved so far, where have you excelled beyond your own expectations, where have things been more difficult or progressed slower than you expected. And that is very important that you look at that in developing your next IP, and that you link that IP to the DLIs moving forward. And remember, very important, you are not alone on this endeavor. You have the whole consortium, all your internal and external partners, but you also have colleagues from other ACEs, maybe more experienced ACEs that can help you. That is very much done during the joint workshops. You have the regional facilitation unit with AAU, you have the World Bank, and you have sector matter experts, and all of these are there to help you. So it will be a daunting task to implement this, but we are sure that you have what is needed to move it forward. So good luck with developing your implementation plan, and see you soon in Djibouti.